Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. I'm Ghassan Elkahlout, and it is my pleasure to warmly welcome you all today. I want to start by thanking you all for your patience, and I apologize for the delay in starting the discussion today. Let me start also by introducing myself. I'm the director of Center for Conflict and Humanitarian Studies, which is an independent research center based here in Doha. A central pillar of the vision and mission of CHS, the center, is to facilitate dialogue and build bridges between all sides in societies affected by conflict. I'm therefore profoundly honored that His Excellency, the President of Somalia, Dr. Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, has kindly accepted our invitation for this crucial discussion on peacemaking in Somalia. The timely dialogue with His Excellency President Mahmoud comes at a critical time for peace and stabilization effort in Somalia. The African Union peacekeeping mission moves towards a complete military withdrawal and transferring stabilization duties to the federal government. The Somali Federal Republic is itself divided among its political elites and member states, while Shabab power grows across Somalia, including in the capital Mogadishu. Joining us for this important discussion, we have in the audience many academics, students from our network of peace scholars at the center. We also have diplomats, journalists, communities who are based here in Doha. The event is also being attended by viewers through our online social media broadcast. While His Excellency President Mahmoud needs no introduction, I would like to offer a few words highlighting his long-standing and tireless effort to support peace and reconciliation in Somalia. With a background in education, we are very pleased to note that President Mahmoud was from among our community, and he has worked as a researcher in post-conflict reconstruction with the Center for Research and Dialogue. He then served as the Dean of the Somali Institute of Management and Administration until 2010. He is also known for his experience in mediation, resolving clan disputes, and building a strong relationship with the international community. He was elected as Somalia president for the first time in 2012 and stepped down in 2017 until being re-elected in 2022. In his current tenure, he is tasked to guide Somalia through the most pressing challenges it faces in its recent history, establishing federal unity in the face of Shabab and responding to a severe humanitarian crisis involving drought and famine. Your Excellency, we look forward to an enriching and insightful conversation. The podium is yours, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure and honor for me to be here in this august and prestigious institution. And thank you for your kind introduction about me. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Somalia has a unique history compared to many other Arab and African countries, starting before the colonial era, the early democracy, the military dictatorship, the state collapse, the civil war, and then the successive transitional government, and then the current non-transitional government. From civil war to transitional system from civil war to failed state to fragile state. So this is a long history that requires maybe a lot of time and effort to present it, but I would like to briefly describe the path through which we've traveled and where we are right now, and where we are heading in the near future. With all these difficulties, the last stage of that was the Shabab emerging in Somalia. Shabab is a terrorist organization affiliated to Al-Qaeda, and it has an international agenda that it shares with Al-Qaeda. It's not a local organization. Sometimes people will ask why Shabab in Somalia, why Shabab is Somali. Shabab is not a Somali, of course. It happens just to be in Somalia. One of the major reasons why in Somalia is, in Somalia there has been a large territory ungoverned for a long time. And this is where the terrorists breeds and put their eggs and hatch their eggs and difficulties. That's why Shabab is there. That's the only reason that Shabab is there. The Somali people, close to 70% of the population, they live in the rural area. And Shabab was governing the rural area of Somalia, where they have been recruiting, financing, and doing all the evil work that they had. A lot of international partners have tried to eliminate Al-Shabaab within Somalia, but for 16 years, this was not successful at all. The main reason, among many other reasons, the main reason is there was no genuine Somali agenda to fight against Al-Shabaab. Since our governance system, our state, was very fragile and focused to many other areas. We had, for 15 years, we had two policies that were practiced in Somalia. One was called containment policy. Keep up Shabab within the boundaries of Somalia. They should not spill over to the neighbors, to the region, to the outside world. So keep them inside, pushing all corners so that they will be contained inside Somalia only. The other policy was a policy of degrading. Let us degrade Al-Shabaab, their capability of doing things, not eliminating Al-Shabaab at all. It took us for 15 years to have that. All these 15 years we were having African Union mission, which have an honest and genuine agenda which based on the African problems for African solutions. They sacrificed a lot, but because of lack of local actor, effective or orient actor, they didn't succeed, the African Union. I was the president of Somalia in 2012, late 2012, early 2017. Those days we liberated a lot of districts that was occupied by Al-Shabaab. But unfortunately, since Al-Shabaab was manning the rural Somalia, those districts, they become an island in an ocean of Al-Shabaab. So districts were isolated, you cannot travel, you cannot link, you have to travel through air. So it was like that. So this time around, after 4 years of experience in fighting Al-Shabaab and 5 years of having good time to study, myself, my party, my colleagues, and many Somali intellectuals, we formulated a new strategy for fighting Al-Shabaab, based on 3 pillars. The previous 2 policies of containment and degrading, they were based only on military, fighting Al-Shabaab militarily. Now we developed a new strategy which is based on 3 pillars. The first pillar is the military, of course. It will remain. We increase it. We empowered the forces, security forces. The second pillar was ideological war. Since Shabab is a faith-based organization that are claiming they are puritanical Muslims or Islam, which is not, we decided to uncover that Shabab has nothing to do with Islam. So that was an ideological war. It is awareness-raising machines, propaganda machine with new TVs, with new Majlis Ulama, and it has its own structure and functioning. The third pillar was to fight Al-Shabaab in the economy, close the tabs that follows the money to Al-Shabaab. within Somalia. So parallelly, we started the war 9 months ago at different levels. We are making progress in all three areas, not the same progress, but we're making all of them progress. We have the approach of liberating districts. We changed it into sweeping Al-Shabaab all the way from the territory. So we did that with a large swath of territory. We divided the country into two as a phase one and phase two. The first phase is almost complete, remaining few small territory, which they are a pocket, which they are still remaining. But the second phase will start soon, and that will be then. So the end goal is to defeat Al-Shabaab militarily first. To defeat Al-Shabaab ideologically will take some time, but we will continue on doing that. By fighting economical Al-Shabaab, it's improving as well. We've closed number of bank accounts, around 200 bank accounts, and around 150 mobile money accounts. These accounts are holding a couple of million of dollars, and they are under investigation. If it's proven that this is Shabaab's money, then we will go to them. And if it's proven that it's not, we will give its legitimate owner back to the account and accessibility. So this is also that front. Now what happened is that Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like when you satisfy one need, another need emerges. When we liberated the areas, now we liberated a large number of territory and people where there has never been any services at all. No education, no health, no water, no governance structures at all. People living that the way we used to live 1,000 years ago. That is what we achieved. So the government's commitment now is to provide. So we developed a program called the stabilization program, that we provide the basic services to these liberated territories. This stabilization program, again, has two objectives to achieve. One is to provide immediate services to the people, however small it might be. That's one. The other one is Somalia has been in a humanitarian situation for a long time. This stabilization program is a bridge that transitions Somalia from a humanitarian to resiliency and then to development. It is a bridge like that. So we're using that, the humanitarian aspect. So that type of paradigm shift in Somalia is what makes Somalia today look succeeding and achieving something that has not been done before. Recently, I visited villages very far away from cities and towns. People are living very, very difficult life, let alone anything else. Traditionally, Somalis, they have Quranic schools owned by the community, not state or anything. So this Quranic school system has never failed all the time, while the other education system is collapsed. Unfortunately, those territories that Shabaab is controlling, they closed all the Quranic schools by claiming that you are propagating a wrong ideology, khurafat. So we took that through the ideological war. For the first time in Somalia, we have a national conference for all Islamic scholars from diaspora, from all regions of Somalia. We brought them together for the first time this year. All types of ulama, Sufi, Salafi, Ikhwan, all, they came together for the sake of Somalia, and they have produced a fatwa. And then from there, they established a council, and we are progressing to institutionalize that element of awareness raising and establishing the wake-up call for the people to resist the un-Islamic practices of these people. In that line, a lot of Shabaab now are defecting from their original places and commanders. The people, the forces in Al-Shabaab, all of them, they are not there for ideological reason. Very small leadership are there for ideological reason. Some of them are there for economic reason. Some of them are there for other social grievances that they have, grievances that came from the civil war, from the difficult days of Somalia. So we are trying to address all those. There is a program for reconciliation or at the communal level, because what they did, Al-Shabaab, was to avoid a cohesive society so that they can stand against them. They always create conflict within the communities. So now, once the territories are liberated now, this conflict is now popped up, and we have established what we call it the peace caravans. Ulama, religious scholars, poets, young people, both boys and girls, elders, moving around, talking to the people for reconciliation, telling and raising their awareness of the practices that Al-Shabaab has been doing in the past 1.5 decade or so. This is the Somalia of today. We are progressing, of course. One challenge after the other challenge emerges. Once we stabilize again, the development challenge will come. Somalia will need some good time to fully become stable and a functional state. But we are very much confident, and we believe that we are on the right path, and we will reach there soon. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Having the privilege of listening to Mr. President and taking into consideration his time limitation and the busy schedule, let's have 2 rounds of questions, 3 in each. Yeah, with the mic.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Your Excellency, for the open and honest talk. My question is about the economy. So Somalia has many untapped natural resources, bauxite, uranium, just to name a few. So since you're moving from a humanitarian phase to a stable government, what are your plans and priorities to utilize these resources in the future?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes,
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Dr. Ghassan. My name is Fuad Ahmed. I am Public Relations in charge of Somali community here in Qatar. It's my honor to be with you this evening. And Mr. President, my question is, as we know all, Somalia is often labeled as a fragile state, especially at current history. And we know that there is international or regional players who influence negatively. So what is the stand of Somali government to avoid and stop as such? And also, my second question is in terms of our brothers in the state of Qatar. We know they are well known as mediators and the players in the region to sort out all of the conflicts, such as Darfur, such as recently Afghanistan. So do you think that it's a time that they have to involved in Somalia issue, especially the case between the regional Somaliland and the federal state of Somalia? Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you, Dr. Ghassan. I'm a graduate of the sociology program here at Doha Institute. And my question is about the point you mentioned regarding reconciliation. You've highlighted in your talk, Your Excellency, about the fight with Al-Shabaab, and that there is an element of grievances at the communal level. But what about a comprehensive reconciliation across Somalia? It's been almost more than 30 years since the civil war broke, but we still didn't have a proper comprehensive reconciliation. Is that something in your plan? And thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Regarding the untapped natural resources of Somalia, you are absolutely right. Somalia is a rich country, very, very rich country. But unfortunately, circumstances compelled to leave or to remain the situation that we are, particularly the politics, which have never been good in the... Somalia has the longest coastline in the African continent. Somalia has untapped natural resources, which are just now. Last time when I was the president, first of all, because of the civil war, because of the collapse, Somalia has lost everything, particularly something that's not easy, but many people get for granted that it's easy, which is the national data. If you lost the national data, you will look like someone who is born now, who doesn't have any record at all. Somalia, we lost national data of a century. During the colonial period, after the colonial period, we lost all the data. So there was a lot of seismic information that was available in Somalia, but we lost it. So we just come up. In 2012, when I became president, I contracted with a small British company to make a seismic survey in Somalia, in the offshore, not in the onshore because of security reasons. They make part of Somalia on the offshore and they presented the data. Once they presented the data, everybody became interested in Somalia. And that was Ghassan oil in the offshore. For the first time, Somalia has signed concessions for the oil and gas in the country. So it's process, and we're going to sign more soon. That's the one. The other one, yes, it's not systematic, it's not organized, but the World Bank report shows us that there is a huge amount of gold exported from Somalia in the international markets. So that also, so it is there. We have established the laws, the petroleum law, the mineral law, all these have recently established. The Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources are working. We are working on the Somali National Oil Corporation is soon to be established, the laws and everything. We are in the process of establishing, but it's there. And the prerequisite to utilize those natural resources is stability and a functioning state institutions. We're working on that. So thank you very much for keeping that in mind. The negative interferences, my friend says, this is a global world. Interference is always there. Negative, positive, countries, they interfere each other. Small countries, they interfere, big countries nowadays. And let alone big countries interfering small countries. But it is that country's state and leadership that needs to protect their own interest and manage those interferences. Some are positive, some are negative. How do we utilize those positive interferences and avoid or affect those negative interferences is the challenge that exists. Yes, Somalia, there was there, but today there is a worldwide recognized state in Somalia. Yes, we are part of Africa where countries that have never experienced state collapse are fragile states in the definition of fragility. So we are part of that huge countries, large number of countries which are described as fragile states. Yes, that fragility sometimes makes us because of because we are unable to defend ourselves in some areas. Let me get an example. We have 2 times our land mass of water, territorial waters in the Indian Ocean and the Red Sea, 3,300 kilometers, with 350 kilometers of maritime zones, with huge potentiality of blue economy. Unfortunately, we don't have navy, we don't have enough sufficient coast guards. Our maritime routes are looted in the broad daylight. We cannot defend, and no one is defending for us. In any one time or one season, in the territorial waters of Somalia, there are more than 1,000 ships, fishing vessels that are looting our fish. Recently, we took, our Navy started now only to operate at a lower level. So recently, we took 2 vessels and brought them to the law with 36 fishermen on them, and a very good number of fish in it. So we are gradually recovering. That is interference, which is very negative. People will think interference in politics only, but economic interference, social interference, we have some problem with some countries, of course, but Somalia, we have that policy of zero enemy outside. And our motto is Somalia at peace with itself and at peace with the rest of the world. We don't have an enemy and we don't want to have one. But those countries who wanted to be enemy, for us, that's their choice. But for us, it's not part of our foreign policy to be the enemy or to threaten the interests of another country. So negative interference is there, and we do, as we grow up, we will fight with we will deter with the negative interferences, and we welcome the positive ones. Qatar's role, yes, Qatar is very famous for its mediation and conflict resolution at a global level. That's true. The Somali government right now is very much focused on the security issue, stabilization issue. Other things go on. Somaliland, compared to other parts of Somalia, has a relative stability. But, you know, when there is a fragmentation, stability itself is temporary in many parts. Recently, Somaliland was not stable enough as it used to be some time back. And then other parts of Somalia that was recent history was stable, proving to be not sustainable, that stability, if it is not a cohesive and comprehensive stability. So Somaliland and Somalia has been negotiating for a long time. Qatar is not involved yet, but it's one of the destinations that we are looking forward to be part of it when the time comes that Somalia and Somaliland kickstarts again the peaceful negotiations that were there in the past. Regarding the grievances and the reconciliation, as Dr. Ghazi said, I have some certain level of experience in the peace building and reconciliation. I was working for 10 years in reconciliation within the Somali community. That gives me the opportunity to travel all over Somalia. I think I can claim 90% of Somali territory, districts and regions I've traveled and visited in one way or the other for mediation, reconciliation, youth empowerment, some sort of one way or the other research for the reconstruction of the politics, for the reconciliation. And political reconstruction, to do it, you have to start with reconciliation. Then otherwise you cannot build politics. So, you know, the experience that I gained throughout this time is if there is no some sort of authority in place, reconciliation itself will not be a durable one. Because you bring communities together and you put a lot of effort, they reconcile among them, they come back together, stay. So one person can again bring that reconciliation to faith. The experience shows us in 2004, 2005, there was 2 communities in Somalia who have been fighting each other for almost a distance of 500 kilometers. Rural area, camel herders. The environment is very harsh and difficult. Scarcity of grazing, scarcity of water, dry seasons, all these complexities were there. We've been working in that harsh environment for 6 months to make a reconciliation between these 2 communities. We did it. We succeeded. They came together. They agreed on what has happened in the past and developed a new mechanism to work together, live together, graze together, water their livestock together, and stay together. Then after some time, when the two communities were living together for a good time in harmony, a young boy came and he saw the man who killed his father during the war. He took his gun and he killed. In that environment, when someone kills someone, we call that person in the civilized world, that's a murderer, killer, qatil, whatever we call it. But in that environment, it is clan X killed clan Y, or community X killed community Y. It's not individual. So immediately people, they again separated and fighting started again. But when there is an authority in place and catch that man and brought into the court of law and sent him into a jail and tell the people now this is done, then there is a element of deterrence that authority do. If that is state or rule-based or whatever, but authority that has a capacity to enforce the good of the society. If there is no that one, even the reconciliation will never function. Those who got grievances and joined Al-Shabaab, they go there because there is no a place that they can go and ask or present their grievances. And maybe they belong to a minority clan or they are minority by themselves. And the grievances they have maybe have a bigger or stronger clans or communities. So one of the solutions is to have a functioning state institutions in place. Then the reconciliation will be easy. Otherwise, the slogan will be Khaf Rabbak. And you know, a bad guy will never stop. Khaf Rabbak will never stop him. So this is the situation, and we're working in it. And right now we started to avoid that such clashes start the areas that has been liberated. That's what we say we developed, that such type of peace caravans moving around within the rural area, meeting with the communities, telling them the risks of emerging conflict, telling them that all the Somali communities today, they agree that Shabab are bad guys. So one of the slogans is, if you don't want the bad guy bad, don't get animosity against your neighbor, your colleague, so far it's working. For the last 9 months that we were liberating the territories, very huge area that we liberated, no such conflict is still emerging. But we're warring and we're trying our best to avoid. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can we have another round? Yeah. Salman?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I don't have a question. Only I have to express my admiration in your role as a president of a rich country, but especially a country that a strategic position in the geographic area in this region. I'm from Peru, South America. We are a rich country. We have gold, copper, silver. For that reason, we have problems. When you are rich, your country, we have problems. Everybody come with you. You have more friends. You have that's our. But it's a challenge for you.
Yes.
I can say that I see a good person in you.
Thank you.
Straight ahead in your work, and you are in Qatar. Qatar is admirable country, mediator country, a small country, but power in the international arena. His Highness, for example. It's dialogue, conversations. And everybody has problems, President, around the world. But it's, again, we're going to resolve everything. How? I don't understand why the sapiens, Homo sapiens, always, we, the sapiens, human being, always we have problems. Fight, peace, war. The animals in Africa, in my country, they don't have problems. But we are intelligent. We have the intelligence. I'm sure that you have. And please, straight ahead in your work and resolve all the situation. If you have the support of the population, you're going to resolve everything. It's not easy. It's not easy. But we are here in this planet. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum. Mr. President, thank you very much for your time. Like you mentioned, I want to ask you about the current situation in Somaliland. Like you said, Somaliland, which has been a bucket of relevant stability for a long time, is going through a crisis currently. So what's your take on that, and what's your regime's plans? And just to add on that, I also want to ask something about your strategy against getting rid of Al-Shabaab. First of all, I was quite surprised that your strategy was quite public, and I hope no Al-Shabaab is already watching it from online. But don't you think this is supposed to be, like a secret for the government?
Thank you. Thank you.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إذا سمحتوا لي بدي أحكي بالعربي.
تفضل.
أنا منذر سلال قادم من الشمال السوري. أوكي. تحياتي فخامة الرئيس ومشكورين المركز على هي الدعوة الكريمة وهي الندوة المهمة. أنا منذر سلال قادم من الشمال السوري، مدير منظمة وحدة دعم الاستقرار، معنية بشكل أساسي بالحل في سوريا. هو سؤالي يعني لحضرتك في له عدة أبواب، ولكن الرئيسي كنا ببداية الثورة السورية كان يقال لنا إنه الدول عم تسعى لصوملة سوريا، ولكن بالواقع اللي عم نشوفه قدامنا انه نحن يمكن بسوريا متطورين شوي عن الصومال بموضوع الخصومة، انه في عنا نظام ديكتاتوري عم يقتل الشعب، وفي عنا قوى إرهابية كذلك على الأرض. وحاليا عم يطلب مننا التفاوض، سواء كان مع النظام سواء كان مع هي القوى الإرهابية، مع بعض كذلك تحفظات أو لدى بعض الدول رأي انه لا تفاوض مع الإرهاب. فهل أنتم جربتم التفاوض مع حركة الشباب؟ وهل برأيك قد يؤتي ثماره عملية التفاوض؟ وما هي النصائح اللي بتقدمها أنت اليوم للشعب السوري اللي هو مثل ما ذكرنا أنه هو بمرحلة أكثر من ما مر عليها الصومال؟ السؤال الثاني كذلك، كيف تعاملتم مع داعمي الإرهاب يعني أو الدول التي لها نفوذ في الصومال، لأنه بيكون لهم يعني كذلك تأثير على هذا الشيء؟ فهذا هو سؤالي فقط، يعني إذا كان في لك كمان أي نصائح للشعب السوري. شكرا كثير لك.
Thank you. Can we have another question?
Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we'll have another. Yeah, سلمان.
يعطيك العافية سيادة الرئيس. أنا بس بدي أعرف الوضع الاستراتيجي، كيف عم تتعاملوا أنتم مع الدول الإقليمية والدولية في الصومال، ولا سيما أنكم تملكون موقعا استراتيجيا مهما. بدي أسأل عن النفوذ الإيراني مثلا، عن النفوذ الأمريكي الإسرائيلي، كيف تتعاملون، كيف تتدبرون رأسكم بين هذه الدول وهذه القوى؟
ممكن اسم حضرتك؟
اسمي أنس أزرق، فضاءات ميديا.
It's a question, but let's take it.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اسمي طيب دبت، سفير جيبوتي في الدوحة. في البداية أرحب فخامة الرئيس حسن شيخ محمود رئيس جمهورية الصومال، الذي كان لي شرف كبير أنني اشتغلت معه في فترته الأولى في الرئاسة من 2012 إلى 2016. لما نتحدث عن الصومال أنا لدي خلفية كبيرة فيما يتعلق بالأوضاع في الصومال، فأريد أعمل شوية مداخلة بسيطة، ليس سؤال، وإنما هذه المداخلة هي لما تقارن كيف كان الوضع في الصومال من 2012 إلى 2016 الفترة التي كنت فيها أنا والفترة الحالية بعدما عاد فخامة الرئيس مرة أخرى للحكم، الواحد يعرف أن هناك فرق كبير. الدولة الصومالية الحالية قامت بجهد كبير خصوصا فيما يتعلق بإعادة الأمن والاستقرار، محاربة حركة الشباب. يعني كنا نعرف بأن المسافة التي كان يقطع فيها الواحد صعبة جدا أنه يستطيع يخرج من العاصمة ويذهب إلى الضواحي القريبة لها. الآن تستطيع تأخذ سيارتك وتذهب إلى مكان بعيد ربما يعادل إلى مئات الكيلومترات، وهذا الجهد يعود للقوات المسلحة الصومالية التي قامت بدور كبير لإعادة الأمن والاستقرار ومحاربة حركة الشباب. الصومال تحتاج إلى شيء واحد، تحتاج إلى مساعدة، تحتاج إلى وقوف بجانبها خصوصا في هذا الظرف الحرج. هذه المرحلة التي تمر بها الصومال تحتاج إلى الوقوف بجانبها خصوصا فيما يتعلق بالدول العربية الشقيقة. فإذا وجدت الصومال المساعدة المطلوبة أنا أعتقد أن موضوع حركة الشباب سينتهي. حركة الشباب سينتهي وسيعود الأمن والاستقرار في الصومال، لأن كل شيء يحتاج إلى عزيمة. أنا لي معرفة شخصية أتشرف بها خصوصا فيما يتعلق بالرئيس حسن شيخ محمود، وأعرف أنه شخصية ديناميكية يستطيع كيف يحكم هذا البلد، يستطيع كيف يعيد الأمن والاستقرار في الصومال، خصوصا أن هذه هي المرحلة الثانية التي يكون فيها رئيس للصومال. ولذلك فأنا مداخلتي هي يعني اختصر الكلام بأننا أمام مرحلة صعبة. الصومال تواجه إلى مرحلة جديدة، نوع من الانفتاح، نوع من التحرر، نوع من محاربة حركة الشباب بشكل غير عادي. وبالتالي فنحن من هذا المنبر نستطيع أن نخاطب العالم كله حتى يوجهوا أنظارهم إلى الصومال حتى يستعيد الصومال عافيته ويستعيد أمنه واستقراره. وأشكر لكم على هذه المداخلة. أنا لا أوجه سؤال، وإنما فقط أردت أن أوضح هذه الإشكالية البسيطة، وشكرا مرة أخرى.
Thank you so much. I can link what you have said to a question in the social media portal. It is about Your Excellency, how you are expecting the support from Arab countries to support the transition in Somalia, and what you are expecting from international and Arab humanitarian organizations to support also humanitarian development work in Somalia.
Thank you very much. Thank you again for the questions. If I start with my colleague who said that Somalia has a strategic location. Yes, it's one of the reasons when we said about Somalia's location in the global affairs is very difficult. It has many effects on the stability of lack of stability in Somalia. You heard about the piracy. Somalia has never had a history of piracy in the past. It's only this time that it came. And I think the world has spent $18 billion to stop that piracy. But maybe Somalia needs $1 billion to have enough navy to take care of the problem of piracy. Maybe Somalia has even need less than $1 billion to stop the piracy coming from the land to the sea, because people they are not there in the sea, they come from the land. So, but we don't have a control over it. It happened. So the strategic location sometimes, those who stop the piracy and fight the piracy for a couple of years in Somalia, some of them, they were there with a good intention and good heart. Some of them were there to protect their fishing vessels who have been fishing in our territory. So it's complete. So what I mean is that our strategic location is, I do agree that it's part of the challenge, but for certain countries, the neighboring countries in the African continent, we have a border with Kenya, with Ethiopia, with Djibouti. Ambassador Tayyip represents. We have a border with Yemen. We're close to Saudi Arabia as well, all the other Gulf region. So those areas like the Gulf and East Africa, their interference has always been a positive, because stable Somalia or secure Somalia is part of their national security, their interest, the security, their economic security, their trade security, all of it. So we didn't have interference as such. Some can claim yes, but you know, when a country is neighbor to you and it sees that you cannot control your borders, and those borders are porous, and the enemy for their national security, they go in. We have a number of interferences in that. But because of us, we Somalis, we were unable to fix our own problems. We blame ourselves, we don't blame others. And now is one of the major reasons now we realize that unless we fix our problems, we cannot finger point others. Strategic locations, the resources that are there, all these can be classified as factors that make Somalia maintain the status quo, remain there for interests of private companies, certain governments which are maybe very far away from Somalia. I don't deny that. My dear friend, regarding Somaliland issue, yes, we all, my position has always been very clear, and I was there when the Somali state was collapsing in late 1980s and early 1990s. I was there. I know how things have collapsed, things have happened. I really feel very sorry and feel very painful when I saw what's going on in Sudan right now and what has happened in Syria, in Yemen. These are roads that we traveled in the past. It took us 33 years. We are 33 years from the day our state has collapsed. You can go into that path. It's a one way. You cannot come back. So state collapse is a phenomenon that takes easy, but bringing back the state itself. So my motto has always been, when I'm talking to Somali people, we know one day or the other we will agree peacefully, and we will come back together. That day, we should not shake hands on top of the graves of our beloved people. And that's what happened after the Civil War. We hug, we shake hands on the graves. After we lost thousands and thousands of people, after we displaced thousands and thousands of people, after we changed the demography of the nation, after we changed the culture, the behavior, and everything of the nation, then we will later, let us shake hands right now. That was my last message to the people in Somaliland recently. And that's the message that I always say. And we are involved. We are working with Somaliland. We are working with the community leaders in different parts of Somaliland to come on their minds and agree on the way forward and on the way of stability. On the other hand, Al-Shabaab's strategy. There are two things. The strategies cannot be, I believe, cannot be hidden and cannot be secret. Because that's how the world will work with us, if they know. But when the strategy is military, when there are tactics to achieve immediate results, yes, those can be preserved and make it secret. But for a nation building, for bringing back a collapsed state into a functioning state, it's much bigger than something that can remain in the offices and in the files in the secret places. So we always have been advocating to tell is part of our strategy, because let our people know how we are going to handle this problem. Then only they can help us. The Somali people are helping us, the fight against the terrorists. Because they rejected the terrorists, they refused it. And I expressed that Al-Shabaab today in Somalia is a fish that runs short of water. If there is no water for a fish, that fish cannot survive. Today, because the people are the water, which the Al-Shabaab have been navigating and moving within. So it is the people who reject it now. So ultimately, it may take some time, but Shabaab has no future in Somalia today. If we don't tell our people this, our strategy, our intention, the way we want, it would have never happened. So, my dear friend, what we are doing is not a military strategy as such, but it is a nation building, state building strategy which cannot be kept secret. My brother from Syria, Syria and Somalia are members of the Arab League. When I attended the Arab League summit, the next chair is Syria, and it has been empty for a long time. We hope that our next summit in Jeddah, that seat will not be empty, inshallah. But for us, Somalia, we know that our seats have been empty for a long time in all international arena, the United Nations, the African Union, the Arab League. Our seat has been empty for a long time, but that's not empty now. So yes, there is a commonality between Syria and Somalia, but there is always difference because we are different in many aspects of life. The issue of stabilization, the issue of Somalization, that term is there, and it is a bad connotation. It's not good. When you heard that some countries, some people, you are Somalizing your affairs, it's not a good connotation. So Somalization is fragmentation. What it connotes is that fragmenting the society. By the way, we are different from Syria, we are different from Yemen in many areas. Somalis, we are one ethnic group at all, Somali. All of us, we belong to that ethnic. We have the same language, we have the same way of life, we have the same culture, and we have 100% Muslims. We are with the same faith, religion, and again we are divided. We are divided. What do you think people who are different ethnic, with different language, with different religion, keeping them together? So there is only one positive experience or advantage we can get out of that. Don't get collapsed. Once you get collapsed, it doesn't make sense whether you are different or whether you are similar. Keep the nation together. Sacrifice whatever it takes to remain together. So I'm glad that Syria is progressing nowadays and it's improving the situation in Syria. We hope it will continue to improve and get back to its rightful position in the global affairs. There is a long way. I believe it will not happen tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. But at least the signs we see, yes, sometimes because of hatred, we hate sometimes our leaders. Mohammed Siad Barre was the dictator in Somalia who was ruling Somalia 21 years. And we chased away Siad Barre in 1991. And Siad Barre, he passed away in 1995 without someone killing him. Passed natural death. He died a natural death. So the lack of patience of 5 years took us 30 years now. Whatever the good reasons we can say. But you know, sometimes patience, nations to get patient, nations not to, it's not always a good advice to take politics to the streets. Populism, taking politics to the streets without institutions is always the good advice is keep politics within the institutions. It may take longer, you may face harsh, but all the difficulties that we faced during Siad Barre, much worse was what we faced after, later on. which by time Siad Barre was dead, we have been continuing the devastation of our country and of our people. So maybe my brothers and sisters in Syria, they may not like Bashar al-Assad, but you know, Bashar has a lifetime. He's another angel who will be going to live for centuries to come. But Syria will remain all the time. So we need to take care of the nation rather than the individual bad guys or what we see as bad guys. So the issue of the humanitarian. When I came to the office, I set 3 priorities, immediate priorities in my office. The state, the prime minister, the cabinet, all they have a state and government plan. But for my office, I had 3 priorities. I came to the office when half of the Somali population was facing the risk of famine, 4 consecutive years of droughts with no agricultural product or anything, with lack of security and stability even. So almost more than 6 million people in Somalia were on the path to starve. So that was a very serious matter. So when I came to the office, the 3 priorities I had was, 1, to avert the famine, to do whatever possible to avert the famine. So when I came to the office, the first letter I signed was appointing a special envoy for the famine, avoiding the famine, humanitarian envoy. And with his capability, with his office, with all the efforts that he make, awareness raising, international mobilization, national mobilization, we averted the famine. A famine has not happened in Somalia, and it's not there today. But still, the reasons why at the first place famine was there is still there. So it's looming. But at least for the immediate purpose, we averted it. The second was the issue of the fighting against Al-Shabaab. And the third was Somalia is one of the debt-stressed country. So there's a program going on for debt relief. That was another priority, to get Somalia out of the debt and reach a completion point. This program of debt relief, my government started at the first term of my office in 2012. Since then, it was going on, so it progressed. We are expecting that debt relief will be ended within this year. Somalia will get out of that trap of the debt relief that we have been for a long time, and Somalia will have access to the international financing institutions for its reconstruction and development. So the 3 areas, all of them, today I will not claim that we did it, but at least each and every one of the 3, we make a very tangible progress in terms of the debt relief, in terms of the humanitarian, in terms of the war against Al-Shabaab. And the stabilization, as I said, is there. Now we cannot remain within the humanitarian environment. So we need to move away. For transitioning the humanitarian, we have to prepare the people, the ground, that they can move to development. So stabilization is a bridge from the humanitarian to the development and reaching the people in everything. Because now we have 9 million hectares of arable land with 2 permanent rivers. The equator passes in us, not because of the climate change, but otherwise we have good rains in the history. So there's no reason Somalia become hungry. We have that coastline with ample of resources. We have one of the largest livestock in the world in terms of camel, cattle, goats, and sheep, all of them. There's no way that Somalia become either, let alone famine, even become a poor country. But fixing the politics, having functional state institutions that are impartial and apolitical is what's lacking Somalia for the past 60 years that we were an independent state. Excellencies, again, thank you very much. But that's the reality in Somalia, and that's our way forward, that we wanted to escape from the fragility. Escaping the trap of the fragility trap is the struggle that's going on in Somalia. I thank you again.
Yeah, Mr. President. There was a question about how the Somali government is dealing with international interference in the Somali affairs. And the question mentioned the Israeli, American, and Iranian interference there.
First of all, you know, those who can have the impactful interference are the neighboring countries, because they have physically, they can come in and go, and otherwise the remote areas will just go. And our neighbors, which I said is Kenya, Ethiopia, Djibouti, their security is at stake for the lack of security of Somalia. And these countries, they have consumed a lot of resources because of the insecurity in Somalia. They send their boys to help Somalia to establish a stable state in place. So I don't see a way that they are interfering us negatively. They are interfering us positively. And right now, as the final stage of the war against Al-Shabaab, which we call it the Operation Black Lion, these three frontline states are contributing their own forces to eliminate Al-Shabaab once for all militarily. So that's that. Regarding the other, Somalia has been in a very difficult situation for 3 decades now. The positive interference of the world was much, much bigger than the negative interference. We have a problem with, for example, our colleagues from Iran. Recently, we have taken 2 boats, Iranian boats, fishing vessels, in our territorial waters, fishing there illegally. And then we had some other interferences of Somalia is a Muslim country 100%. We are Sunni Muslims, and we are even Shafi'i madhab, all of us. Recently, we have some differences here and there, but basically we are Shafi'i. And again, the problem we have is emanating from the faith that we believe. So our colleagues from Iran, sometime back, not now, sometime back, there was groups that have been propagating Shia inside Somalia. We respect those people who believe the Shia, but we cannot afford now Somalia. Being one, unified in all aspects, again, we have, now if we have, again, Shia and Sunni problems for a strategic purpose in the long term, we cannot afford that. And we told them that, our dear brothers, we cannot afford this. So that was some time back. As of now, politically, diplomatically, we don't have even a problem with them. But for that was the last time we had a problem with it. The other countries, particularly the Arab world, all of them, they are helping. Qatar is helping Somalia in security, in reconstruction. We have the first highways constructed by Qatar now, still under construction, but number of kilometers are already in good shape and be using. Qatar Charity is there, helping in the health, education, and all us, water. The Qatar state is helping the Somali state in the security sector and in many other places. Same is the United Arab Emirates. They are also helping, doing the same thing, helping the security sector, helping the other parts. So we are very much grateful for what the world is doing for Somalia. Somalia's sovereignty is protected by our international institutions like the United Nations, the African Union, the Arab League, all of them. They have been protecting the unity and the territorial integrity of Somalia for a long time. Yes, there are some parts of Somalia, like Somaliland, who claims that they secede from Somalia, but worldwide, globally, no country in the world recognizes that and accepts that. All over the world, they say Somalia is one, and we recognize one Somalia. We didn't bring that with our diplomatic muscle or our power, but that was a support that we have been receiving from our global partners, institutions like IGAD, the African Union, the Arab League, the United Nations, all of them. And Somalia is very much grateful for that. So we do not complain about the negative interferences as such. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Respecting our promise, to finish in 1 hour, I would like to express my profound gratitude to all of you for your active participation and attendance. Your engagement has truly enriched the discussion, and I repeat my apology for the delay in starting the session today. I would also like to convey my appreciation to Your Excellency President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud for taking the time of your busy schedule to share invaluable insight. We are greatly honored by your presence with us today. Thank you so much. And finally, I want to affirm that the Center for Conflict and Humanitarian Studies remains deeply committed to the facilitation of dialogue in and on Somalia as part of Center Conflict Mediation and Peacemaking efforts. Your participation and perspective at our event are integral to our collective effort to build bridges and foster common understanding. And once again, thank you, and we look forward to seeing you all at our future event. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank you so much, President.